Hey, Catherine. So, because I know you will mention this or someone will mention this, yes, I am wearing the same shirt as the last time, but I'm wearing a different shirt underneath it, so it's fine. I'm not wearing the exact same outfit. The other obvious note, my voice is finally starting to get better. It's not 100% yet. I'm still a little bit phlegmy, but I think I finally sound like I don't have a tube sock shoved halfway down my throat. So I'm really happy about that. Also, I liked the idea that you were texting me about doing a little bit more of a question and answer type thing or addressing each other's content more directly. So I'm going to be starting off with a little bit of that. You had a lot to talk about, so there's going to be a lot for me to ramble on about too. So we'll kind of see how that goes. And on that same note, I feel like even though I was a little bit late in my posting last week, you went over. We could both end up getting punished for this, but it was a weird week for both of us. I feel like this is the one strike we deserve. And also, you were so sweet in a billion ways about yours that I could never be mad at you for going over when you're talking about, just how I'm gonna cut this part now. How sweet everybody is, and just how much you loved all of your friends and how proud you were of everybody. Why have I not cut it yet? I don't know what it's like in Montreal right now, but in Edinburgh, the sunrise is currently about 8:30 and the sunset is currently about 3:30. This is pretty much less than just about anywhere else I've lived or spent considerable amounts of time in. It's made it a lot harder to get things done or to keep schedules that I'm used to because I'm just so thrown out of whack. And it feels like I'm starting my day later because I'm waking up at 10 or 9 to make sure that I have enough clearance that I don't run into the dawn hours. I want it to be properly bright out when I wake up. It is pitch dark out by 3:45, 4. While earlier in the semester, I would be like, oh, I'll run out and get some errands done or whatever. It's only 7. It'll only be dark by 9. Now it feels weird to be walking anywhere downtown, even just for an afternoon snack at 3, because I feel like I'm out in the middle of the night, even though it's daytime hours, and as if I should be tired, but I'm wide awake, but it's 3. So that's been a really weird adjustment. So I know I'd previously told you that I had sorted out my housing situation for coming back at the end of this semester to Colby. I thought I had, but as it turns out, Colby is having such a problem with over-enrollment that they were running housing a little bit differently than they normally do. And it's all being done through email by a spreadsheet because they changed housing directors and just a lot of fine details that are not worth going into. That meant that I would have to draw for a single. And I got very lucky in that it's done by lottery number. So everyone who was coming back for either January term, Jan Plan, or the spring, had a number assigned to them and would pick in order of those numbers, with 1 being the best. I was assigned number 69. I'm not joking. Out of a pool of a little more than 85. 85 from abroad and 30 odd from other programs or moving for that semester for one reason or another. So I was like, okay, this is pretty good. I'm in the top half of people, so I should get a pretty good dorm. When it came to be my time to pick, almost all of the singles were gone. There were a couple left, but none of them were open for January term and in chem free. So I was like, okay, cool. And I ordered my choices such that I chose traditional singles first and then chem-free singles for spring term if I had to, and would find essentially somewhere to couch surf in the interim if I needed to during Jan Plan. But I ended up getting my first choice of non-chem free dorm, and while I was thrilled that I got a big room and it's a single and it's all to myself and I get to come back for Jan term and that's going to be great, it also so happens to be in Heights, which is, if you go to Colby, a little bit of an infamous dorm because it is huge and for a while had terrible bathrooms and rampant party culture. So we'll see how that goes. I'm at like the far end of a hall on an outside wall with a common room on one side of me and another single on the other. So I'm not next to any space that would be practical to be like loud and raunchy. And I'm far away from the main stairwell. So I'm hoping, really hoping that ends up being feasible. Or if it doesn't, that I end up finding a way to transition to somewhere else. So that's that. Now, I don't know if you were kind of talking to the general audience or if you thought I didn't know Betrayal on the House on the Hill, in which case I'm betrayed because we've played together and now those memories are haunting me. And yes, it is called a haunting, not an evil... What did you call it? An evil event? I think that's what you said. I'm sorry if I just misquoted you. But I also know Critical Role too, although I am very, very far behind. I'm more into the Adventure Zone, at least as of current. I've listened to more of the Adventure Zone, and since I'm so behind on that, that is where my like catch-up energy is focused. So I have like, when I say that I have dipped a toe into Critical Role, what I mean is like I have dipped the very tip of a toe into Critical Role and I liked it, but I haven't had the time to like properly get my feet wet. You were also talking about mulled wine, which I recently found out that I don't like. I went to like a drunken embroidery thing and it was mince pies, mulled wine, sparkling lemonade with some kind of alcohol, I don't remember which, and embroidery. I actually have my embroidery right here. I just kind of did some not too fancy stuff. I made a little blanket stitch shell thing. They're pretty simple, but it was pretty fun. But the mince pies were awesome. But as it turns out, I am not a fan of mulled wine. I tried it like 3 different times, and I don't know. It just tastes way too earthy for me. By the way, I'm super jealous of your snow. Here are some quick videos that I took hiking the other day. So now you can see why I'm so jealous. It's pretty cold here, but since we don't have snow, I really haven't had to whip out anything more than a fall jacket. I don't need a winter jacket to keep the wet off because there is no wet. The interesting thing about Edinburgh, though, is that when it gets really, really cold, the ice just kind of comes right out of the air and appears on all the surfaces. You get about 1/2 centimeter thick layer of what appears to be snow and ice just across everything, but none of it actually fell. It's really interesting, but it also makes it very hard to walk, especially just down the streets and through crosswalks, because everything is finely coated in black ice. Even though we don't have any snow, street sweepers have been driving through all the major roads and sidewalks and parks and just throwing sand and salt because it gets really, really slippery despite there being very little active precipitation, or when there is precipitation, it's rain and it ends up falling on the warmer days, so it just soaks in rather than becoming ice. Your place is super cute though. I liked your stairs, I liked the murals, I liked the little street. It's a really cute and soothing place. I wish I could visit. And I will say, although you said it's the best building, and I'm not saying you're not objective, but I think the Geo building is the best building at Colby. And I think the suite of Geo buildings, like the several buildings that contain Geo offices, classes, teaching spaces, study spaces at the University of Edinburgh, are the best ones. So I'm saying that I'm biased. I don't know if you're biased, but I'm going to assume that you are. But even still, I'm sure it's lovely. You talked a little bit too about having all the people you love in one place. I have never actually had that because my parents both moved from Billerica, Massachusetts, where they grew up, to Maine, and I grew up here. So my entire extended family always lived around the Boston area, and for all of the major holidays, we would be driving down to visit them and hang out with everybody. We would be down for birthdays, and they would always be coming up whenever I had a major recital when I was a dancer as a little kid, or for like my first day of kindergarten. So I saw and thought about my extended family quite a bit, even when I was really young. So I never have had my whole world just be one town. I can't really imagine what that's like, but I do understand the feeling of when your world grows. The first time I had ever really met people who I hung out with consistently, who weren't my family, from outside of my hometown was when I went to band camp and suddenly had a ton of friends from all over the state and all sorts of reasons to miss people and wish that we could be back and it could be summer already. Drama Fest only amplified that when I would see my friends and meet their new friends and make new friends, and before I knew it, by the end of high school, I knew a lot of music and theater kids from all over. Even other states, because my school hosted New England's. Colby was that same growing experience, but even more so. You said it's Christmas time, so you have to forgive me for making this absolutely stale joke. Like the Grinch, my heart grew 3 sizes to accommodate all the new people I had room to love thanks to Colby. Because of that, there hasn't really ever been a place where I've felt more at home. I totally get what you mean about McGill and Montreal. As much as I've absolutely adored this city and I've adored being here and the experiences I've had and getting to come here in the first place and just how lucky I've been that it's all worked out the way it has, I am so excited to be back at Colby for January term and see my friends, and even in a less than perfect dorm, just kind of be back where I feel like I'm at home. Talking about long distance friends too, I am sometimes very good at long distance and I am sometimes very bad at it. Because if I get a really, really long message, I'll usually think, oh, this will take a while to respond to, and so I'll put it off. And then I'll proceed to put it off for so long that I then feel awkward responding and end up accidentally ignoring people and then feeling terrible about it. It's a cycle. It's happened many times. But with the people who I talk with on the daily, their messages tend to be shorter since we've caught up more. And so I rarely, if ever, have like a long break from talking to people who I talk with a lot, like maybe a week at most. And on that same vein, I agree with you that it's a little weird that English only has one word for love, because Spanish has several, and although almost all of them have a romantic context, they can all be used in different ways or have different flavors. Like the infinitive amar is essentially to love, but enamorar is also to love, and encantar is also to love, and querer is also to love. But they all have slightly different flavor to them, and they all work in slightly different contexts. For example, querer can also mean to want, whereas none of the others can expressly. You know without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. You know that I love you, you know that I've got your back, you know that I love the rest of my friends too, and although I'm not oftentimes good at being very forthright and affectionate, I'm doing my best.